This second in the Ski History in 1960 Winter Olympics Series lecture takes us through the early years of Squaw Valley up to the successful effort to host the 1960 Winter Olympics. We describe the two visionary men involved in the history of the valley and follow its development into a massive ski area. Finally, we discover the story of an adjacent but very different valley, Alpine Meadows. We begin the story of Squaw Valley long before the emergence of the Squaw Valley ski area we see today, when it was just a wilderness known only to a few dedicated adventurers. The east-west oriented valley, shaped like an elongated bowl, is about 2 miles long and 1/2 mile wide. The advancement and retreat of glaciers over the last 760,000 years carved the characteristic U-shaped valley. Spread across the valley floor is a verdant meadow, carved by the meanders of Squaw Creek, the main drainage. The Washoe tribe was the earliest of inhabitants to occupy the valley. For at least 1,300 years, up until the early 20th century, extended families of Washoe established annual summer encampments here, fishing, hunting, and gathering plants for sustenance. One version of history has westward advancing pioneers naming the area Squaw Valley for when they entered the valley to discover only women and children camped in the meadow. Settlers appropriated the valley floor in 1862, using it for hay farming and dairy production. A shingle mill followed. In 1863, a silver boom exploded near the mouth of the valley and just as quickly imploded the following year. Squaw Valley would remain an idyllic retreat and seasonal range for cattle and sheep for the first half of the 20th century. The story of Squaw Valley then turns to a man with a vision and a dream, Wayne Polson. As a student at the University of Nevada in Reno during the 1930s, Polson started the school's first ski team and actively promoted winter sports. Following his graduation, Wayne went on to coach the University of Nevada team to an undefeated championship season in 1939. Polson's exceptional flying ability during World War II earned him a position as a lead pilot for Pan American World Airways, a military contractor for the United States Armed Forces. During his ski career, Wayne made many trips from Reno to Lake Tahoe, which gave him ample time to marvel at the distant mountain peaks lording over the meadows of Squaw Valley. When Wayne entered Squaw Valley for the first time in 1931, he was only 16 years old. After further exploration, he decided to acquire and develop Squaw Valley as a mountain community dedicated to skiing as a way of life. The visionary Polson saw the potential for a ski resort in the tradition of the European mountain resorts and began buying up land in the valley. Polson established his permanent residence in the valley, where he and wife Sandy raised 8 children. Always the dreamer, Polson would share his captivating vision of a Squaw Valley ski resort with anyone who would listen. A chance meeting with Alexander Cushing would set the wheels in motion to realize Polson's dream. Alexander Cushing was a Harvard-educated lawyer from a privileged East Coast family. An avid skier, he made a trip out with friends in 1946 to find the snow that had skipped the eastern resorts that year. While skiing at Sugar Bowl near Donner Summit, Cushing heard Polson talking of Squaw Valley and his dream resort. Intrigued, Cushing accompanied Polson to scout out the valley. The beauty and potential of Squaw Valley tapped into Cushing's desire to take a new path in his life, and the two men later agreed to form a partnership. Wayne Polson provided the technical expertise, while Cushing raised and contributed the capital to finance the venture. Squaw Valley Development Corporation was formed. On November 23, 1949, Squaw Valley Ski Area opened for business with a double chairlift, 2 rope tows, and a partially completed base lodge. Shortly before the ski area opened for business, the partnership dissolved and Cushing emerged with control of the ski area. The early years of the ski area were challenging as nature dealt repeated blows with floods and avalanches. The lodge burned in the 5th year of operation. A lesser person would have caved in, but in the midst of bootstrapping up a ski area, and recovering from disaster, Cushing secured the Olympics. The story of the Olympic bid is continued in Part 3 of the Sierra Ski History and 1960 Winter Olympic Series. Inducted into the U.S. Ski Hall of Fame in 2003, Alexander Cushing would continue to lead the Squaw Valley Ski Corps to a top-tier worldwide ranking among ski areas until his death in 2006 at age 92. Poulsen continued to develop his holdings in the valley, building housing tracts, commercial properties, and a competing ski area. He was fiercely protective of Squaw Valley and his holdings and single-handedly stopped Olympic officials from paving the scenic and environmentally sensitive meadow. Inducted into the U.S. National Ski Hall of Fame in 1980, Poulsen passed away in 1995 at the age of 89. Next, we will learn about the discovery and development of Alpine Meadows through the writing of a longtime local resident, author, and even a medal presenter at the 1960 Winter Olympics, Eddy Starr Ancinas. The story begins with John McClintock Riley, who grew up in San Bernardino, California. After graduating from Stanford University in 1929 with a degree in economics, he married Winnie Rule in 1935. When Riley heard that Squaw Valley, having just opened in 1949, might host the 1960 Winter Olympics, he and Winnie went to ski there in the spring of 1955. Riley, who had always dreamed of having a cabin in the mountains, bought a house on a hill and across from the future site of the Olympic ice arena. He named it Berghof, which is German for mountain farm. John Riley's weekend visits to his cabin in Squaw began extending into week-long visits. His enthusiasm for mountain living grew, and with it his desire to plan and develop a ski area of his own. Inevitably, he too began to explore the valley next door. In the spring of 1957, Riley turned off Highway 89 at Deer Park Lodge and drove his Jeep up an old logging road along Bear Creek as far as he could go. Having looked down into this valley in the winter from the top of a Squaw Valley ski lift, Riley knew in his heart this was where he would build his ski area. In August 1957, John Riley rode out from Squaw Valley stables with his 21-year-old son, John Jr., across the meadow and up a steep, rocky trail to the top of KT-22 Mountain. "Come see this," Riley said to his son. Holding his reins in one hand, he pointed to the southwest, where a pristine valley fell away below a protective ridge of high peaks. On the same trail ride, Riley's good friend Peter Clausen listened to him praise the benefits of owning a cabin in the mountains and his desire to share his good fortune with others. He told Clausen of his plan to develop an area in the next-door valley with home sites and ski lifts. Clausen looked dubious when Riley asked his opinion. Having surveyed the area for avalanches, Clausen knew that slides were frequent along the windy ridge between the two valleys. With its southern exposure, snow on this side would be of poor quality and melt early in the season. A better choice, Clausen advised, would be farther up the valley on Ward Peak. Clausen told Riley that instead of developing a modest ski area with skiers coming from Squaw Valley, he should think big. He wanted to build a ski area independent of Squaw. Clausen pointed to where ski lifts might be built up Ward Peak. While the three men discussed the pros and cons, a fourth rider, former Olympic skier Sally Hudson, looked at the profusion of purple lupin in a small meadow, and then up the mountain where the snow lingered in the high cirques. "John," she said, "I think you should call your ski area Alpine Meadows." After 2 years and many dollars spent in relentless pursuit of his dream, Riley was well short of his goal, and in May he wrote another letter to investors, informing them that they could cash out, remain as a stockholder, or upgrade to a new plan to build the Alpine Meadows of Tahoe ski area. The new plan would raise $600,000 by the sale of 120 blocks of 500 shares at $10 a share. This was Alpine's last hope of becoming a ski area. Larry Metcalf, president of the group, immediately sent a letter out inviting members to join him and directors Byron Nishkin and Bill Everts in this new effort to get Alpine Meadows up and skiing. The California Commissioner of Corporations approved the sale of 70,000 shares. A new prospectus was released on June 12th, and the checks rolled in. Larry Metcalf and his friends in the Bear Creek Association invested enough to put Alpine Meadows of Tahoe over the top, and the funds were released in late July. Bear Creek Association, now the majority stockholder, voted as a bloc to elect Byron Nishkin president of Alpine Meadows of Tahoe. Nishkin and his Bear Creek associates now controlled the ski area. Riley remained chairman of the board but had no control over the future of Alpine Meadows. His dream was, at last, realized, but not by him.